Back to the Game Smash podcast. As always, I'm your host, William Liberty, and with me is
Fawaz Muhammad Yusuf.
And today we've got a quaint podcast for you guys, folks. We've got a Prey trailer, we got Quake Champions trailer, we got Gears of War 4 trailer, we've got Hearthstone Purify controversy. We got PlayStation. Meeting September 7th. And yeah, we got that. That's pretty much it. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we played this week. So I didn't really play much new. I mostly played a lot of some more Overwatch, trying to get better unlocks during the the summer event. Still not getting the unlocks I want, so that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Played a lot more of Shin Megami Tensei 4. That game is fantastic. I was really scared because I got to one of the bosses that people were telling me, okay, dude, this boss is gonna fucking destroy you, right? And I'm just like, oh no, I'm kind of scared, and I'm just thinking to myself, man, I'm not looking forward to this. But luckily, I kind of trained and leveled up enough, and I had the right people for the job. So I was able to actually kill the boss. And there's actually kind of an interesting mechanic that I did get a taste of it in Final Fantasy X very, very briefly. There were some boss battles in Final Fantasy X in which you had an action to talk to the boss, right?
I don't remember.
It only showed up very briefly.
Okay.
But depending on what you like, if you talk to this with this character, this boss, a dialogue will happen, and it'll be like, Yuna just got a +2 increase to her magic for this fight, or something like that. There's a similar mechanic in this game in which, while you're fighting the boss, while you reach certain points of their health bar, they'll be like they'll talk to you or mock you or threaten you, and then you have an option to respond. And depending how you respond, it will either be like you can impress them or, discourage them, and then you can get buffs or debuffs on them. Or you could do the opposite, in which you say something that makes them think, oh, you're a freaking loser. I'm really going to kill you. And then they buff themselves.
Okay.
So it's kind of a really interesting thing. Like, the farther I get into this game, like, it's so interesting. It's hard for me to explain everything, but it's a really, really cool game. But that's what I've been playing this week. What about you, Fawaz?
Okay. So, Tenor, I've been gaming for 20 years, probably more than that. I've been gaming since the early 90s, right? Yeah. And in my gaming life, I don't have a lot of regrets. I have a few regrets. Buying Street Fighter V, for example.
Oh, you're so salty about that.
Yes, I'm actually still salty about that. Could you tell? However, I have another regret that I'm going to add to that list, and that is not playing the original Dark Souls when it came out. Because I finished Dark Souls 3 this past week, and it was an amazing game.
Nice.
I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. However, after completing the game, and watching watching like all the after I finished the game, I was still like itching, so I watched like top 10 most difficult bosses in Dark Souls, top 10 more, all these extra Dark Souls stuff.
Right.
And then it made me realize that there was a lot of really, really cool callbacks to the original Dark Souls in this game that completely went over my head. Yeah. Like the final boss battle, for example, I'm not going to get into it on the podcast.
It's a perfect send-off.
Yeah, the final boss battle, there's like a really, really cool Easter egg there that went completely over my head. There's like armor that you find, like I found this giant hammer and it was like Smog's hammer, and I'm like, cool, this hammer is ugly as shit. But then
you go back to Dark Souls 1 and you look at Smog and you're like, oh god.
Yeah. And then, of course, the secret boss, the nameless king, and then the lore behind him. And I'm like, oh, wow, this would have been really cool if I had played Dark Souls.
Yeah.
But overall, it was a really good game. I beat the nameless king, by the way. I'm not even going to front. He was tough. Like, the game as a whole was really not that difficult. Honestly, if I was going to list one disappointment, it'd probably be that the game, and it's probably.
You also have to, audience, take this with a grain of salt. It wasn't that difficult for, a character action game vet,
Yes. I'm a Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden player, right? And a Bloodborne player, too, right? So, for me, the game was not that difficult. However, yes, for the average gamer, maybe, but I guess for me, part of it was just the hype. Everybody's that. And then, and I know this isn't all Dark Souls players. This isn't even most Dark Souls players. Most Dark Souls players are actually really nice. But there's always that player, the condescending, get good Dark Souls guy that makes you assume that, oh, wow, this game is so difficult because why else would this person have such the air of superiority?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then I played the game, and the Nameless King, it took me about 2 hours to beat that boss. I'm not even going to sit here and pretend.
It's a hard boss fight.
You've beaten him, right?
Yeah, I've beaten him. Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you?
Well, I mean, I fought him a couple times by myself, and then I caved and I summoned someone.
Oh my god!
That's usually how this works. Did I tell you about the story that I bought some Bloodborne art from a person at Comic-Con? She's a really, really nice girl. She has some really great Bloodborne and Dark Souls art. I bought some from her, and she's like, "So you play Bloodborne?" I'm like, "Yeah. I do occasionally summon people to fight bosses with me, though." And then she kind of went, "Oh, you're a scrub." I was getting insulted by the person who I was buying merchandise from. It was fantastic.
Yeah, because I considered it, right? I considered summoning help for Pontiff Sullivan, the Dragon Slayer armor, and the Nameless King. Those are the three bosses that I considered it. But I was like, here's the thing, and this is probably why this probably helped me a lot with the games, is that I'm a very, very proud person, right? I'm very confident in my abilities as a gamer, and I was like, people have beaten these bosses solo. So there's no way I'm not going to beat this boss solo.
Right.
I am never going, I was like, for my second playthrough, when I'm just trying to rush through the game to get trophies or something like that, maybe, but at least once I will beat every single boss in this game by myself. So yeah, the Nameless King, he honestly, and I know this, he's not that tough, once you learn his, and I'm not, I don't want to spend too much time on it. You know what, I'm not even going to get into this, because I actually made a video of it after I beat him. So I'm going to post that on the channel, so look out for that. But yeah, Dark Souls 3, amazing game. Even if, it's funny, because this has happened to me twice now. It happened with The Witcher 3, where a lot of these things are going over my head, because I did play Witcher 1 and 2, and it's happening now with Dark Souls 3. So, but even if you haven't played Dark Souls 1, or Dark Souls 2, sure.
There are some pretty interesting callbacks to Dark Souls 2. Okay. They take the best things from Dark Souls 2 and they homage it here.
Okay.
But
cool.
It is mostly a lot of Dark Souls 1 love.
Yeah, but even if you haven't played Dark Souls 1, you will still enjoy this game thoroughly. However, I do recommend, if you haven't bought Dark Souls 3 yet, if you haven't played Dark Souls 3, and you have the opportunity to get your hands on Dark Souls 1, I recommend trying it out. Because, there are a lot of really, really nice callbacks that I wish I could have experienced. I really, oh my god. There are some callbacks to this game that I am like, wow, that is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's why when I was playing the game, I was marking out half the time, going, "Oh my god, that's great! That's a freaking reference to this." And
absolutely brilliant stuff. Hats off to From Software, and I cannot wait to see what they... it's funny, because after I finished the game, I'm like, oh my god, I pray to God that Bloodborne 3 has these kinds of callbacks to the first Bloodborne. because I
Yeah.
want to experience them at some point.
Yeah, no, I totally.
I don't want to be on the outside looking in, but yeah, man, Dark Souls 3, I finally finished it. I started New Game Plus. Have you played the game in New Game Plus? It's
Not really.
it's disappointingly easy.
Yeah, well,
I beat Vort in like under a minute. I like what's his name? Gundyr. You know how when you pull the sword out of Gundyr, you can hit him before he stands up, right?
right.
Yeah, by the time he stood up and his life bar had appeared, he was at 50%.
Yeah.
Like, I think I took too long to beat the game, so I'm over leveled now for New Game Plus.
Right.
It's so easy. It is so easy right now, I'm probably not going to finish it because it's just boring. Like, it's just boring walking into room.
I totally
hitting them with
totally
a 3-hit combo and deleting 30% of their health. Yeah.
It's a shame because I actually really liked the New Game Plus of Dark Souls 2 a lot.
Okay.
Because in Dark Souls 2, there was a lot more. You start the game in New Game Plus, and there's a bunch of new enemy placements. And there's a bunch of new stuff. Like, for example, when you start that game, you're in this nice, calm field, and you make your way to, like, the bonfire area, and you're like, okay, this is cool. You start New Game Plus, you start walking through the field, and 10 of these guys with giant-ass hawks for, like, pets burst out of the fields and start attacking you immediately.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, there's some cool stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. I really do like that game. I'm curious, what did you think of the dancer? Because the dancer in Dark Souls 3 is, I think, my favorite boss from, like, a presentation.
I loved her present. That her flowing the headdress. Mm-hmm. I love the way it looks. The way it's like the misty look in the air, and just the way she walks and all that stuff. No, I liked her. I liked her as a boss. Funny story about her because I beat the third Lord of Cinder, and then I get teleported to this one place, and I just take a few steps forward, and she spawns. So I'm fighting her with 60,000 souls, and I was like, this is not happening. So I ran into a corner, and I popped a homeward boat because I was like, I am not fighting, because I had heard horror stories about the dancer of the Boreal Valley. So I was like, I am not fighting this boss with 60,000
Run, retreat. I don't need to be proud today.
Oh my god, yeah, but no, she was a very good boss. In terms of bosses, my favorite boss was probably the twins, Lorien and Lothric.
Oh, that boss fight was fantastic.
Yeah, I loved the boss design. It was hard, but it wasn't like one of my least favorite bosses. In all honesty, was the Dragon Slayer armor. It was the most frustrating boss for me, like by far. There was no other boss in that game that I came so close to killing so many times. And then dying every single... Like, the number of times the Dragon Slayer armor was one hit from dying. And then he hits me with a move that knocks me off the edge of the bridge.
Yeah.
I loved Lothric and Lorien. They were difficult, but, like, first of all, I loved the soundtrack of that boss battle, like, so much. I think that's my favorite soundtrack in the game. But then I loved the design. I loved the little twists midway through the battle. And yeah, I liked the lore, because I kept hearing about this Prince Lothric guy and all this stuff. So yeah, I think they were probably my favorite. But I liked the dancer. I enjoyed the Nameless King. I enjoyed the final boss. I liked a lot of the bosses. There were a few that Yorm is probably the most disappointing boss of that entire game for me, like hands down. And then there were some bosses that I don't like the rotted. I beat it again in my second playthrough, and I hate that boss.
Wait, which one?
First. The tree, the giant tree.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. It was just sort of it was
disgusting.
It was sort of just like a kind of like not too hard to fight boss. It was a little bit of a puzzle in the sense like you had to figure out where its weak point was. I don't know. I liked the level transition in that fight a lot.
Yeah, the level transition.
And this is something that is for someone who's played all the Dark Souls games. I really like the level. I really like the drop. I really like in any situation in which there's a drop in the fight.
Yeah, but no, a lot of the bosses were a lot of fun. I enjoyed quite a few of them, and yeah, man, like it's a pity that I'm over leveled for New Game Plus, I might actually try to fight, because you know how you can fight the Dancer of the Boreal Valley early, right?
Yeah.
I might actually try that just to see how over leveled I am right now. I might actually give her a try. So next week on the podcast, I'm gonna come in crying because she beat the shit. Because she beat the shit because I got too arrogant and she beat the shit out of me. But yeah, Dark Souls 3, hats off to From Software. Yeah, absolutely amazing game. I cannot wait to see. And I finally, because Dark Souls fans are some of the most passionate fans I've ever seen, and I finally understand why. It is a very, very emotional game. And it's a game that elicits a lot of emotions, and I can't wait to see what From Software has to do.
And this is something, in my opinion, is that I feel like Dark Souls is one of those games there is a wall, there is a barrier that you need to break. When I started playing the game, I was kind of I don't really get this. I don't understand what's going on. I feel like a lot of the enemies are bullshit, and I'm just not having fun. And also I was only playing it whenever I was going over to my friend's place, right? So then I bought my own copy, sat down, and when I did get to some bosses, yes, I was a scumlord, and I did summon people to help me. But that being said, I still got a huge amount of enjoyment in that game.
Yeah.
And I was able to power through it, and it was totally, totally worth it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just the barrier that is it's tough for people.
Yeah, you're still a scrub though.
Oh no, I'm still a scrub. I'm not hiding that. I'm not hiding that at all.
Don't mind me. Anyway, we still have some news.
We got some news. So Prey, we got a new trailer for Prey. Pretty interesting. Very system shocky.
Very system shocky, very BioShock, obviously.
Yeah, BioShocky. Well, yeah, BioShock is like a spiritual successor.
Yeah. Don't mind me. It's really cool. I'm interested in this game. I can't lie. Well, first of all, because I missed out on so many, because I missed out on Dark Souls and The Witcher. Now I'm keeping an open eye, and I've tried to try out more games outside of my comfort zone now because of those. So I see this and I'm like, it's a brand new IP first of all, and it seems to be very story driven. So I'm going to assume that there's probably going to be a pretty big plot twist somewhere in this game, because that's just how these types of games always go. He was dreaming the whole time or some bullshit like that. Yeah. But overall, though, it seems it's I like it. I guess that was my very, very convoluted and indirect way of saying I liked it. Okay, there we go. I knew there was a game that it reminded me of that I couldn't remember. Half-Life. It seems, for me, I remembered Half-Life, not System Shock, when I saw this trailer. Probably because of the things that climbed that dude's face.
Right. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, the face of looking things. Yeah, but yeah, I'm definitely interested in this game. We still don't know a lot, and honestly, I think this is gonna be one of those games that we won't know a lot about it until the game comes out, and that is probably for the best. But yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about this game. This gameplay trailer definitely, like the E3 trailer, it had my curiosity, but this gameplay trailer definitely got my attention.
Yeah, for sure. I do like the tone, and I think the game does look really, really cool. And I like the mystery around it. I like how it's because there's always that worry that you spoil too much of your game in the trailer. You try and reveal, oh look about this really cool part, look about this really cool part, and then it's you get to the game and now you already know all the cool stuff. There's no surprises. So I like how they're being very, mysterious about it at the moment. I think that's the right way to go with this kind of game.
Yeah, people are disappointed though. Because they announced Prey 2 a very long time ago, right? You had the Prey game that came out 10 years ago actually. And then they announced Prey 2 where you were going to be using a bounty hunter. I think it was a Native American bounty hunter or something along those lines, and obviously they backtracked on that and they're going in a completely different direction. So a lot of those people who are looking forward to the original Prey are very disappointed. Like
Yeah,
if you
no,
look through
that's
the
great.
comment section of the trailer, a lot of people are disappointed that they've chosen to go in a different direction, which is expectations versus reality, right? And it is the risk that they ran with this reboot, and
Yeah.
I can definitely understand why a lot of people would be disappointed. Because the idea of playing a bounty, I mean, people love bounty hunters,
Well,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's just a given.
That's just a given, right? We love us some bounty hunters, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
The,
I am interested. I am peaked for now. We got another trailer that looks really, really cool. Quake Champions finally got a gameplay trailer. This game looks freaking fast.
it looks very fast paced. Like the flick shots that this dude was pulling off had me it's had me very, very, very impressed. And to be fair, on the flip side, like when Quake was announced at E3, gamers being gamers, they were bitching about it because that's all we know how to do. However, I think the consensus has been, and this is obviously just judging from like the comments and the like to dislike bar ratio and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Because people are a lot more positive after seeing some gameplay. The game
Right.
still, because a lot of people were worried that it was going to just be Overwatch, right? They thought they were going to turn it
gonna
into
be another. Yeah, that was my worry too. Is that especially from the cinematic trailer, I was like, okay, is this gonna be like sort of like another Overwatchy kind of thing? What's going on with like abilities and I always forget the word, but like abilities and timers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, when you see the trailer, you go, oh no, seems like its very own thing. It's very fast. It's very like it seems very classic shooter in which you're flying all over the place. You're rocket jumping to get to locations, and like you got to be precise with your shooting, like.
Yeah. It definitely. Yeah, it looks like Quake. I mean, no, I'm not a hardcore Quake fan. I know for a fact there'll be those hardcore Quake fans that'll be like, no, 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 no. But like in general, it does look like Quake, at least to the untrained eye.
Yeah.
It looks very Quake-like. Unfortunately, we just got a little snippet of gameplay. It's like a good 1 minute 16, and this is fast-paced gameplay, so this shit goes by like that. But overall, it looks good. I mean, well, it looks good graphically speaking. It looks absolutely stunning. Some of the animations look a little clunky, but that's just me nitpicking.
I really like the eyeball in the middle of the map.
I love the eyeball.
That's pretty rad.
But yeah, looking forward to hearing more about this. And I think we can officially say that the era of the modern shooter is dead now. I feel like they'll I feel like the era of the modern shooter.
I feel like it's not even just the era. I think it's more that the era of the military shooter
is dead.
It is dead or is starting to flame out finally.
Yeah,
because it was so oversaturated. We were getting Medal of Honors, we were getting Call of Duties, we were getting Battlefields, we were getting Kill Zones, and now what we're doing is that it seems like we're finally starting to get a lot more weirder stuff. We're getting games like Overwatch, we're getting games like Quake Champions, and I feel like this is a nice direction.
I feel like this is a very good direction, especially since there's so much variety now. You have your Overwatch you have your Battleborne. Remember that game? Yeah. You have your Quake, you have your Doom, and like these 4 games are all completely different. And then you still have your Titanfall coming out later in the year. You still have your Battlefield 1. You still have your Call of Duty. I just listed 8 different shooters. Was that 8? No, that was 7. Yeah. I just listed 7 different shooters that are all very different from each other. Yeah. And I'm not even talking like different coat of paint. They're all completely different. Maybe Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare are gonna have like a decent amount of similarities probably. Yeah. But outside of those two, like all these shooters are completely different, absolutely different. So yeah, I feel like this is a very, very, very healthy time for first-person shooters. Finally, like last generation. I mean, last generation was not a good time for shooters. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah. But we started to see a gradual transition, and I feel like this year is when the explosion has happened, and I'm happy. I'm glad. I'm not a crazy shooter fan, but I'm a gamer, and I like to just see variety in my games. So yeah, good shit. Good shit, video game industry, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of this Quake. If I'm being completely honest, I'm probably not going to buy this game, but still.
I mean, I've got Overwatch, so I'm happy for a while at the very least, so there is that. Next on our list, we've got a Gears of War 4 trailer. Pretty interesting. I thought it kind of funny because, obviously when we saw the God of War trailer that came out at E3, there was clearly this father-son dynamic that they were going for. In this trailer, you get to see that with Marcus and his son, where they're just, walking around, trying to, avoid getting shot by robots, and, Marcus won't shut up about his goddamn tomatoes, all that fun stuff. But I found that kind of interesting, that both these games have, like, this weird father-son dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, we're like, gamers I think it's an interesting way to transition into the next generation, right?
Yeah.
Because you also got to remember something. Prior to last generation, actually, a lot of the video game icons were icons that didn't have to age.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Marios, your Sonics, your Crash Bandicoots. I mean, you had your Lara Croft who just, for some reason just never aged.
But Lara Croft this time was a reboot, so it's
yeah, but like a lot of the old characters, you had your Samus who you could be like, oh yeah, cryogenic freezing or all this bullshit, right? But like a lot of the more recent games with their sequels they can't keep because of the passage of time in the games. Yeah. Because like Metroid, for example, a lot of it, like, I mean, sure, there's a bit of a timeline, right? But it's not. The games aren't as connected as like
you don't get to see a character age like from 20 to 40 and like from sequel to sequel.
Yeah. So now this is an interesting way to deal with the fact that a lot of these games time has been passing in these games. And yeah, man, you have Marcus, you have old man Marcus, old man Kratos, I see we get old man Master Chief soon, and yeah, old Commander Shepard. There we go.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, but awesome. But yeah, in terms of the actual gameplay, oh my god, I actually forgot, dude. We had gameplay we're supposed to be talking about.
Supposed to be talking about the gameplay. So basically, well, that's the thing that's kind of a little less interesting, to be honest, is, a lot more cover-based stuff. They showed off some new weapons. They're fighting robots now, which are called DBs, which is something. I like the fact that they're fighting a new race, though. Some people were like, oh, these robots are stupid. I'm like, well, we've been fighting locusts for 4 games straight. I don't mind fighting a different enemy.
4 games? Don't you mean 3 games?
No, there's 4. I know one of them people try and forget, but there was technically 4.
I have no idea what he's talking about, people. I only know 3 years of war games.
3
but,
okay.
But yeah, the new enemies, it's interesting. Yeah, you're right. And they do raise some interesting questions. And I'm glad, first of all, I'm glad that Epic decided to finally move away from locusts, and these new robots, they raise questions, who made them, where are they from, why are they trying to kill humans, what did this dude do to piss them off, and it's going to be interesting to see, and here's the thing, is that with the first Halo, when you played against the Covenant, you had all these questions, right? You were like, where are these aliens? Why, what's this obsession? What's their obsession with that giant ring in the air? Oh my God, where are these locusts too, right? Yeah. And then that mystery added to the overall beauty of the game, and that mystery was lost in Halo 2 and 3. Same thing with Gears, You played the first Gears, and you're like, who are these locusts? Where did they come from? And, no, they took a lot longer to answer those questions. You found out the answer to those questions in the third game. Mm-hmm. But, once that mystery passes, some of what made that game special is gone. So I'm glad that they're trying, they're trying to recapture that magic with Gears 4 and the DBs. Who terrible name, by the way. They sound like an 80s pop band. Seriously.
Yeah.
DBs?
Fantastic.
What? Like, but I'm glad. And I'm looking forward to finding out more about the DBs.
Yeah, that name isn't really that great. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, though, was I liked how when he shot one of the robots down in the trailer, to pick up the minigun, he actually ripped it out of the robot, and you can see like little cords and capsules hanging off it. So I thought that was actually kind of cool.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
But it does seem like more Gears. Game does look a lot better now than it did, several months ago.
Oh yeah. I just gotta apologize. Like a couple podcasts ago, I shat on them because the game looked like shit during the beta, and they said that this is early gameplay. And I didn't believe them because like a lot of developers have hit me with that bullshit where they're like that, oh no, this is early gameplay, and I'm like, cool. And then the game comes out and it still looks like shit. So I doubted Epic, and for that I am eternally sorry. This game looks amazing graphically. Gameplay wise, you are right. It just looks like One Gears. There doesn't seem to be much innovation happening here in terms of the core gameplay elements. So perhaps the new enemies will be where the innovation comes from.
Bring some spice. Speaking of innovation, Hearthstone's been adding a bunch of new cards, none of which have been getting shat on by the community. So Hearthstone in the new, we talked about a bit about the new expansion in our last podcast.
One Night in Karazhan.
A really good trailer, and cards have been getting mixed reception. But the one card that everyone's kind of getting really mad about, it's not an overpowered card. It's just a what? Why? Would you like to explain what this card does for us?
Okay, so there is a new priest card. So let me give you a little bit of background. Priest is currently the worst class in the game. My friend Jay Street, he recently got his golden priest, and he cannot stop telling me about how painful the experience was. We did 500 games on ranked ladder with priest, because priest is actually the worst class in the game right now. So when this expansion was coming up, people were excited. They were like that, like the last prior to the last expansion, Shaman was the worst class in the game. And, Shaman got a lot of really powerful cards in the last expansion. People were excited. They were like, let's see what Priest is going to get. So Priest got a bunch of cards, and I haven't heard much about the other cards. I think the set for them is kind of meh. But there's one card that they got called Purify. So Purify is a 2-mana spell. It's a 2-mana common spell with text that reads, silence a friendly minion, draw 1 card. Now, this card is terrible. Like, I don't think anyone can make any case. Even Blizzard have come out and said that they dropped the ball on this card. So, like, at this point, I don't think anyone can make any case for this card. This card is terrible. Right. But what's really surprising is the uproar. Because I don't know if this was just the straw that broke the camel's back, or if this card is really, really that exceptionally bad. But Blizzard have made a lot of bad cards in the past, They made a lot of they made a lot of cards that prior to the release of the expansion, people were like, these cards are terrible, But I have never seen this kind of uproar at a single card. Ever. I've been following Hearthstone since launch. I have never seen the entire community get so upset at one card. Now, Blizzard responded, and they have done something. So part of what people hated about this card, first of all, the card is garbage, right? But on top of being garbage, it's a common. Now, why that matters is that Priest is also the worst class in Arena, right? And then when you are drafting cards, the frequency with which you get cards is based on their rarity, obviously. So the fact that this card is a common is going to mean that it's going to be appearing a lot in Priest drafts. So it automatically makes Priest even worse in Arena. Now, to counteract this, Blizzard came out, and they've already said that when the expansion launches, which I think is right now, actually, as our recording of this podcast, when the expansion launches, this card is going to be deactivated for Arena. You will not be able to draft this card in Arena. They did the same thing with Cthulhu cards. yeah, you will not be able to draft this card in Arena if you are unlucky enough to pick Priest.
Yeah.
So there is that, and hats off to Blizzard for reacting to the uproar, because it is insane. I have never seen this kind of uproar to a bad card ever.
I can kind of understand it, because you could argue that like there's some other cards in the game that this card is bad or whatnot, but it has as bad as it probably does something different, just not really effective. But the problem with this card is that it is especially bad because there's just no reason to have this card in your deck, because you can Power Word Shield is costs less, gives one of your minions +2 health or whatever.
+3 health.
+3 health, sorry. Yeah. And you get to draw a card. And that's all that for only 1 mana. Whereas this, I think the only way that this would really work is if, let's say there's some sort of debuff on your card, right? There's something that you need to get off your card. So being able to silence your own card might be useful, but in the reality, that situation is not going to happen that often. Like, I could think maybe this wouldn't be the worst if, for example, that one genie card, which is draw 2 for a 4/5 that can't attack.
Yeah.
You silence that and you draw a card. But even then, you do that, you're only getting that on turn 3,
Yeah.
And,
yeah. No, you're completely right. There were situations, in the old handlock, right?
Yeah.
You would run the 2 mana for 5, and then you'd run a bunch of cards that would be able to buff that card, right? Yes. Now, the reason why all of this worked was because the 2 mana 4/5, it could be activated by Defender of Argus, which you ran 2 of. It could be activated by Ironbeak Owl, which you ran 2 of. It could be activated by Sun Fury Protector, which you ran 2 of. It could be activated by Shadow Flame, which you ran 1 or 2 of. Yeah. You see what I mean here, right? There's a lot of stuff in your deck that could interact with this card. I'm agreeing with you. Just yeah. But this card, it's and then all those cards that I listed, they also have a wide variety of ways you can use them. But this card, you're sitting there, you most of the cards you run in this game have text on them. In fact, in Constructed, every creature you run has text. No one runs vanilla cards anymore. Your Chillwind Yetis and shit like that. No one runs those cards. So you will usually, and if you're running a card with text, it will usually 90% of the time it will be beneficial text. In fact, 99% of the time, it will be beneficial text. And then you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I really want to draw cards, but I have to target my minion with this craptastic piece of shit card. And this card is just terrible. But what I really want to focus on here, actually, is the effect that the Hearthstone community had. Because, people always talk about how, I was joking a little while about how, all gamers do is complain, right? And, whenever people start complaining, there's always that person who's like, well, if you don't like it, don't buy it, right? And I do understand that logic. However, this situation right here, and sure, this situation is a rarity, but this situation right here shows the power of complaining.
I do get it.
Yeah, this wasn't a bunch. I mean, sure, there were those people that were like, "Oh my God, Blizzard are stupid," fuck Blizzard, all that shit. But a lot of people came out, like Kriparian, who he's a really popular streamer, really funny guy, by the way. You should check him out. He released a nice video just talking about the issues with this card, right? And it's very, very articulate, and he goes over step by step why this card is a problem and why this card is a mistake. And Blizzard probably listened to people like him. Trump had his own little rants as well. A bunch of streamers had rants, right? They were like, the priest is at the worst position it's ever been. And then you release this card. And then as a result of all this complaining, Blizzard, I mean, sure, they haven't fixed the issue, but they have fixed some elements of the issue.
Yeah, they've done. I feel like they've done what they could reasonably do with the little time that they have. So I can give them credit for that, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So so the next time someone asks you, the next time a game developer does something you don't like, and you come out and you complain about it, and someone tells you, why are you complaining? Just say Purify.
Yeah. I also kind of find it funny because as someone who's played Magic the Gathering, like the card game, I find it kind of funny in the sense where it's like this is something that can only be kind of fixed and changed in this type of format because playing Magic the Gathering, like the actual card game, it's like if you got a new set and you're drawing a couple packs and like, oh, I drew this one card. This card seems kind of useless. Well, I can't complain because it's not like they're gonna reprint it. It's interesting that the fact that we in this medium, like, this is something, because I think back to playing Magic the Gathering as much as I did, and it was like when you got shitty cards in those sets, it was like, all right, I'm just not gonna use that card, or I could try and see if there's any decks that I could build around this card being decent, but there's probably other cards that would be better, So I find that kind of interesting that Hearthstone does have the luxury in the sense where it's like people do complain enough that card can be fixed.
Whereas... A quick question, actually. When you got a bad card, how did you trade it?
You could trade it for just credit, like in the store.
Okay.
Or like honestly, half the time it was like you just had it, and most people would just like I saw some people that they would just be like, all right, I've got 4 of them for my collection. If I draw any more, I'm just gonna start tossing them.
Okay.
Because most of these really shitty cards are like the basics, right? Sometimes you might get your odd uncommon, but most of the time there's that. But if there was but usually if it's like, all right, I've got a rare, this is a really shitty rare, but the store doesn't have that many of them, I'll trade it in for credit and get a better card. That's usually what people would do. But there were circumstances back in the day where it was like, if the store already has 4 of that card, we aren't going to be trading more credit for it.
Okay. I was just curious. Yeah. But yeah, One Night in Karazhan is coming out Thursday, which is the day that we're recording this, but not the day you'll be hearing. It's coming out August 11th. And look forward to trying out that brand new Purify card.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Get hyped.
Yeah, hyped. But yeah. So in our next point is Sony announced that they're going to have a quote-unquote PlayStation meeting event on the 7th of September. And that's pretty much all they said. It's going to be on the 7th of September in PlayStation Theater in New York. And the biggest surprise here is that they actually have a PlayStation Theater in New York at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Yep. And they don't specify that it's about the PlayStation Neo. But
everyone's kind of like, okay, they're going to reveal the Neo. It's the time to do it, And, but yeah, like, I'm interested to see what they're going to show. I don't really know how many games they're going to show. I don't know.
The top comment on the article is, have you watched The Matrix?
Oh, okay. What's the top comment? Try. Hit me.
So is that scene in The Matrix when Neo gets up and he like does the palm thing to Agent Smith? Come at me, bro thing. And I'm just like, oh my god, fucking gamers! Like, you guys are too hilarious.
Yeah, I can't get mad when gamers try and use GIFs to express their feelings because it usually comes to hilarious results.
Oh yeah. But in terms of the Neo itself, I'll be honest with you, I'm not excited. I think I mentioned this at E3 with the Xbox S, where I was like, okay, on one hand, if they create a console that is so powerful that developers have to make games exclusively for that console and desert the PlayStation for the vanilla PS4, then we, the 40 million who
have
the 40 million PS4 early adapters get screwed, right?
Yeah.
However, on the flip side, if they create a console that's just like a little bit of an upgrade, then what's the point?
Yeah, like it's not really. I can understand for a sense this isn't going to be made for me, like obviously, It's made for the people that they gotta have that like 4K quality. You know, they have to have the best level. It's basically it's that weird market of like, I don't want to upgrade my PC to become a god. I want my PS4 to be comparable to a PC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, it's for those kinds of people, and I'm pretty sure that's the market that they're gonna try and sell it for. It's like, all right, look, this is the PS4 Neo. This is where the graphics are at. It's gonna blow your fucking mind, you know?
Yeah.
And,
or there might be. Sorry.
And I just feel that it's kind of like I understand where that audience is coming from, but I'm also kind of like, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it.
Yeah, unless they're going the PlayStation Slim direction with this, where the Neo. I mean, I doubt it because of all the hype around, like a slimmed down, a slimmed down version. But yeah, I'm not. I don't know how I feel. I guess we'll wait till we see. And in terms of the console itself, I really don't care. I do hope that they show some games.
Yes.
I'm not going to hold my breath. In fact, I'm pretty sure they won't show anything new. They'll probably maybe just show new gameplay of old games. Maybe show some Horizon gameplay. Maybe show some Days Gone, some Snorefest gameplay of that. Some generic gameplay of that. Sorry, I meant. And I doubt we're gonna get any new like announcements.
Yeah, I doubt. I think it's probably like hell. I've heard people say that we might get to see some more Beyond Human.
Oh, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing some. Wait, what? Wait. Beyond Human. Oh yeah, Detroit, worst name ever.
Yeah, Detroit. Yeah.
Why did you threw me off completely?
Sorry, I keep forgetting that because I keep forgetting. God damn it! Why? Who named that game Detroit? It's like
because when you said Beyond Human, I was thinking Beyond Two Souls, and I was like, wait, what? I'm not excited for Beyond Two Souls. Then I was like, oh yeah, Detroit, worst name ever.
Keep the lore going.
I wouldn't mind seeing some Detroit worst name ever gameplay at the event, but yeah, I'm really curious. I am very curious. It's because I doubt they're gonna dedicate an entire event to just the console. Because at the end of the day, I think Sony realized after the debacle that was the PS3 that it is in fact the games and not the consoles that sells the console. So I would be very surprised if they just, hey, here's this new console. Here's all this tech bullshit that most of you don't care about.
It would be nice, maybe, this is just wishful thinking, if we got to see some news on the Dark Souls DLC. Because I do know that's coming.
Yeah. Although from what I've heard, the games rarely ever have good DLC. And from my experience with Bloodborne DLC, I can attest to that to an extent.
Yeah, no, I can get that, but then I'm also like, well, Dark Souls 2 had my favorite moment in the entire series in the DLC, so I'm still wishful.
Yeah, this is true. I wouldn't mind some really good DLC. Flesh out some of the lore, flesh out some of the lore and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not holding my breath in that regard. This is gonna. It's still a little ways off. It's first week of September, so we've got about 3 weeks in between now and this event. And if you want to find out more about the events, be sure to check out the Game Smash. Be sure to subscribe to the Game Smash.
Be sure to subscribe for the most accurate gaming news.
The most accurate gaming news on the Game Smash podcast. But yeah, good stuff. Looking forward to that. Yeah. And then I guess we got a
question of the day from the wonderful J Streets.
The wonderful J Streets. Shout out to J Streets. And the question goes, so believe it or not, Final Fantasy 15 is actually coming out next month. I actually can't believe it. What are your thoughts on the 10-year saga of this game, and how do you feel it will do critically? Is 10 years too long to actually produce a good game? Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah. Cough. Well, do you want me to swing at it first, or?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. I'll start with the first part of the question. Do I feel like it's going to do well critically? I'm pretty sure it's going to do fine critically. Yeah. Like, the game, like, from a presentation standpoint alone, that game looks gorgeous. Like, that game looks absolutely gorgeous. And from what I could from like the sound design to the soundtrack, from what I've heard in the trailers, game sounds great, game looks great. The only thing that I think people are going to, like, some of the fans and newcomers, I'm interested to see how they're going to react to the new combat system, because the new combat system seems very complicated and a little bit hard to get into. And I think that's going to be where I think that's where the criticism is probably going to come from, or the story, obviously. Although I think the story in this game is going to hopefully be better than 13's, and it does.
Well, it can't be much worse.
It can't be much worse. So there is that. But it seems like they're going like with a more standard story, and I'm actually kind of okay with that, because of all the weird shit in 13. But I think it's going to do fine critically. As far as, like, if 10 years is too long for people to actually produce a good game, I think it just really depends. It does depend on the situation. Duke Nukem's situation it suffered a lot from a lot of things, and in particular, it was like the game was being passed around from different teams, back to back to back from different teams. And then Gearbox finally got it, and they just had to, like, staple together the remnants of what had been worked on for those 10 years, along with their very generic ideas. So it just became a shit show. And I can totally understand how that game, like, shit the bed over that development time. Whereas something like this, I feel like it's been in development for like 10 years, but I feel like it's sort of like a stop and go, where it's like the team had a really strong idea of what they wanted to make, but then of course they had to stop and work on other things and whatnot, and then they would always come back. And I feel like that's more the situation that was with this game. It wasn't like stapling together ideas or anything like that. I think it was basically like, all right, we're working on, this game, and now it's like, oh, we got to finish 13, and then now we have to go make this other Square Enix game or whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
So I feel like that's part of the reason why this game probably took so long to make, along with, well, they obviously, it's one of those things where they showed off that one trailer in like 2006, and they were like, oh yeah, this is totally going to be gameplay. And they were like, we can't fucking do that in 2006. So I think that was part of the reason. And it's actually kind of similar, because that's two things where it's like both this game and Last Guardian have in common, where it's like they both admitted that they didn't have the technology possible to make what they wanted or what they were trying to sell in those trailers. And they said that, and that's part of the reason why they're saying, okay, now we're at the point where we can actually make what we promised. I mean, and to be fair, that's similar to what happened with Killzone 2. Like, Killzone 2 had a really long development, and it had a quote-unquote gameplay trailer back in the day. But that being said, it took them like 5 years, but they did actually make a game look pretty close to that trailer. So, but that's what I mean. It really just depends on the team. So, and honestly, it's also a fun fact. This is not being made by Gearbox. So I feel infinitely more confident in these guys' abilities. So I don't know. I guess that's my answer. It really depends on the team and the situation in general. Duke Nukem was just a clusterfuck for multiple different reasons. So that's kind of like my comparison to that. But what do you think, Fawaz?
Let me see. So yes, first of all, I think it'll be fine, like critically and commercially. I think it'll do fine. But is 10 years too long to actually produce a good game? Yeah, I agree with you. It varies. It varies, and I think part of what helped this game is that this game has actually not been in development for 10 years.
It's stop and go.
It's stop go, This wasn't a situation like Daikatana or Duke Nukem, where they kept switching engines and switching all this stuff, and then they got like a hodgepodge of pieces all over the place. Then one person came to and tried to glue all that stuff together, and the game was just an absolute mess, literally. And but in this case, I feel like this was a situation of them. They started development in 2006,
Yeah.
and then for whatever reason they stopped. They stopped for a very long time. And then they reached because this is how it went from our point of view. They announced the game in 2006. We didn't hear anything for like 2 years, and I think we saw like a trailer in 2008, maybe 2009.
Yeah.
And we didn't hear anything. Complete silence until like 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And then from 2013, it has followed a regular game development cycle. You know, they've had like frequent updates. They had that little demo. They've had like gameplay trailers. They've had CGI trailers.
Mm-hmm.
They had the animated series, all that stuff. So for me, I feel like development actually started in 2013, 2014. I can't remember the exact dates.
Yeah.
So no, I think this game will be fine. Lord help Square Enix if it isn't. Lord help Square Enix if I'm wrong. And this game comes out and it's doing the way No Man's Sky is currently doing on Metacritic. I think Square Enix might have to hire extra security because I think their head office is going to get bombed if this game comes out and it is not good. Because here's the thing: is that this is a situation where people expect this game to like blow their socks off, right?
Yeah.
Especially since Final Fantasy, the last Final Fantasy people got, I think, is universally hated. So people just want a good game. They don't want anything revolutionary. They don't want anything like, at least that's the impression I've gotten from all the Final Fantasy people I speak to. They just want a good game.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm at that point where it's like, I don't even need anything that's gonna like blow my mind. I just want a good game.
Yeah, this game isn't following up Final Fantasy 7. It's not following up Final Fantasy 10.
Yeah, no.
It's following up Final Fantasy 13, 1, 2, and 3. So, like, it honestly just has to come out and not be booty. And I think it'll be fine. And from what I've seen, the game does not look like booty. Well, not the bad kind of booty, anyway.
Sure, for what? This is why you come to the Game Smash podcast for these quality descriptions on gameplay and presentation and design. It's booty or it's not booty.
But yeah, I think the game is gonna be fine. I think Square is gonna be fine. I think everybody's gonna be happy when this game launches and whatever date it's launching. When is this game launching?
September 30th, I'm pretty sure.
What?
I think it's September 30th.
You should know this, Tanner. You're the Final Fantasy person.
I'm not really the final. People say that I'm the. Okay, people say that I'm the Final Fantasy person and I'm the JRPG person, but I'm really not. Like, honestly, I got into JRPGs because of Persona, a game that I played 2 years ago. So, no.
I don't know why I keep, like, I know this. It's at the back of my mind, and I just keep thinking that, you know, Tanner, I'm more of a JRPG person than you. Like, I don't, like, when I actually think of the number of JRPGs I've played over the years, I'm actually more of a JRPG person than you. But I feel like it's because of late you focused more on them than me. That's why I feel like you're the JRPG person. You are right. It's September 30th. So I definitely will be thinking this.
But no, I totally get what you mean. It's just I'm the JRPG person of late because I had that huge bias on JRPGs in general that like, you know, JRPGs are just the same game over and over again, you know? And I had that huge bias, you know? And then finally I played Persona, and that blew my mind. So I was like, okay, I need to start giving these games more of a chance. And I'm glad I did that, because I got to experience a bunch of really cool moments and games because of that. And that just that's a good lesson to end on. It's like, you know, sometimes you need to break your personal bias to find something new and special. Yeah,
like Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, there we go. That's the sort of the theme of this podcast.
That's it. You see, this is the Game Smash podcast right here.
See, we occasionally we fumble our way to a good quality moment. But if you like our content, make sure to leave a question in the comment section. We'll answer in the next podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, this was your host, William Liberty, and
we'll
see you guys next time.